at noon tomorrow.
Now we move on to the Middle East. The United Nations General Assembly has overwhelmingly voted to demand an immediate, unconditional and permanent ceasefire in Gaza, along with full and aid access. The resolution also calls for the release of hostages held by Hamas, the return of Palestinian detainees, and a complete withdrawal of Israeli forces. 149 countries voted in favor, while the US, Israel, and 10 others opposed it. The US had earlier vetoed a similar measure at the Security Council. Israel's ambassador slammed the vote as blood libel, saying it undermines hostage talks and fails to condemn Hamas. The US called the vote performative, claiming it doesn't advance peace or help civilians. The vote comes ahead of next week's conference on the two-state solution, which the US has urged nations to skip. Let's listen in to the Dorothy Shee, US representative to the United Nations.
This draft resolution sends an unacceptable message to Hamas and other Iran-backed terrorist proxies. And that message is, you will be rewarded for taking hostages, diverting aid, and launching attacks from civilian areas. Mr. President, colleagues, blind support to Hamas by the members of this body further undermines the meaningful diplomacy underway to free the hostages and emboldens Hamas as the terrorist group continues to reject ceasefire proposals accepted by Israel.
Meanwhile, Egyptian authorities have detained over 200 pro-Palestinian activists in Cairo ahead of a global march to Gaza. The activists from over 40 countries had planned to march to the Rafah border to demand aid access into Gaza. Some were held at Cairo airport, others were questioned at hotels with phones confiscated and belongings searched. Several were later released following diplomatic intervention, while others were deported. Egypt says border visit must be approved officially, even as pressure mounts on Israel to lift its Gaza blockade. Meanwhile, Israel has deported 6 activists who tried to break its naval blockade on Gaza. 2 others remain in custody. The flotilla was intercepted in international waters, sparking global condemnation. Now we stay in the Middle East. Tensions are rising again on the Israel-Lebanon border. An Israeli drone strike killed 1 person in Nabatieh al-Fawqa in southern Lebanon, according to the Lebanese Health Ministry. State media says the strike targeted a motorcycle and was one of several Israeli air raids across the region. This comes despite a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hezbollah reached in November last year to halt more than a year of fighting, including 2 months of all-out war. The deal required Hezbollah to pull back to the north of the Litani River, while Israel was to withdraw from Lebanese territory. But Israel still holds 5 strategic positions and last week said it will keep striking until Hezbollah is disarmed. No comment yet from the Israeli military on Thursday's strike. Now we stay in the region. Tensions are rising along the Syrian border after an Israeli raid in Beit Jinn, just 12 kilometers from the Golan Heights. The Israeli military says it carried out a targeted nighttime operation and detained several Hamas operatives suspected of planning attacks. Syria's Interior Ministry confirmed that 7 people were detained and accused Israeli forces of firing on villagers, killing 1 civilian. The Syrian Foreign Ministry has now called the international community to step in, condemning the raid as a blatant violation of its sovereignty. The operation comes days after Israel claimed to have struck a Hamas target in a nearby area, killing 1 person. Israel has carried out hundreds of strikes in Syria in recent months, targeting what it calls Iran-backed terror infrastructure. Damascus says these repeated attacks will only escalate regional turmoil. Now we move on to